Hi, I'm Phyllis Lang, and welcome to Nightwear. Today's video will explore how you can use Deep Sky Planner together with digital setting circles to make your observing easier. Especially, I want to talk about the Nexus DSC. But first, let's talk about the most recent release of an update to Deep Sky Planner 7. The release came out a couple of weeks ago, and it enhances support for both the Argo Navis and the Sky Commander digital setting circles devices, and it adds support for the Nexus DSC. Now, the enhancement has to do with connecting to digital setting circles wirelessly. So if you look at Deep Sky Planner 7, and you can see I'm looking at the latest version that was released, you can go and configure your digital setting circles here under Equipment Observer. And the changes are appearing here, allowing you to choose how you connect to the device. Now, in the past, you could connect to Argo Navis or Sky Commander wirelessly, but you needed to use something like a Sky-Fi device to provide the wireless connection at your digital setting circles. And to drive those communications out of Deep Sky Planner to your digital setting circles, you needed an interim piece of software that converted serial communications to wireless Wi-Fi. And in the past, I've used COM to TCP software, and other people have used HW Group's virtual COM port software. So we needed Deep Sky Planner, the intermediate software, and something like a Sky-Fi device in between Deep Sky Planner and the digital setting circles. So with the latest update, we've eliminated that middle piece of software where you can talk directly through your Wi-Fi in your computer to the Sky-Fi unit or what have you. And you can do that by choosing Wi-Fi on your device settings page, and this will enable the IP address and the TCP port for the Sky-Fi unit. You can still use the serial connection, of course. So that makes observing with those two devices a little easier. It eliminates that middle piece. But further, in the latest release, I've added support for the Nexus DSC. And observing with that wirelessly is really, really nice. So in order to do that, all I need to do is have my Nexus DSC unit, and it needs to have a Wi-Fi card in it. Now that's optional. This one happens to have that Wi-Fi card in it. You can add it later, and of course you could use a Sky-Fi unit if you needed to. But for this demonstration, we're going to use this Nexus DSC, which, as you can see, is turned on. And I'm using Deep Sky Planner with the default factory configuration settings. These settings will appear in the Nexus, and they need to match for Deep Sky Planner to make the connection. Now, I have enabled on the computer that we're broadcasting from, I've enabled a network connection from this computer to the Nexus DSC. It presents itself as an access point, and all I need to do is join that network. So I've done that. So in order to be sure that we have the connection set up correctly, I can click the test button, and that will transmit some commands through the Wi-Fi to the Nexus. And the Nexus responded with reasonable looking data, so we have a good connection configuration. The other thing that we can notice on this particular page is that I need to enable the push to feature for digital setting circles device. So I've enabled it for the Nexus DSC. And what that will allow me to do is to click on an object in any Deep Sky Planner report and choose Push To for the object, and that transmits the coordinates to the device. So we'll get to that more in a moment. You'll notice that there are other videos present now on the Deep Sky Planner channel at YouTube that talk about different features with Nexus. There's a video that explains how to set up the Wi-Fi connection, and there's a video that explains how to set up a serial connection, because you can do that with Nexus. And there's another video that will explain to you how to make your own serial cable to connect with Nexus. So for this demonstration, again, we'll stick with Wi-Fi. So let's talk about exporting an observing plan directly to the Nexus. Now, we've been able to do that for years with Argo Navis and with Sky Commander. And in fact, we've been able to transmit those files directly to those devices. So to do that type of thing with Nexus, you need to have an observing plan file. And for this demonstration, I'll just open this one. It's a short observing plan. I created it to accompany an article on the Web Deep Sky Society website that goes with the Galaxy of the Month article for September. That article explains Hickson 88, a galaxy cluster. And these galaxies are members of that cluster, and the article goes into some explanation about these galaxies and about the cluster itself. It's an excellent read. You can find it online at webdeepsky.com, I believe. At any rate, I've created an observing plan with these 4 objects in it. And if you wanted to take this plan to the field with you and not take a computer, and you have the Nexus DSC, then you'll need to export this plan into the format that Nexus needs. And you can do that fairly simply by choosing File, Export, Export Observing Plan. That brings up this dialog box, and there are a number of format selections for the conversion. And you'll need to choose this one to format with the Nexus DSC format. Now you would notice when I clicked that particular conversion type, this box was disabled. There are no extra conversion parameters required for a Nexus conversion. The next thing we need to do is choose a file to be exported. And I'm going to choose that file that we just reviewed on screen in Deep Sky Planner, and I'll open that. Now the system will create automatically an output file name in the same directory where your plan was, and it is going to have a file extension of SkyList. That is actually the Sky Safari file format. And that's what Nexus DSC needs. So I'm going to leave this alone, and I'm going to go ahead and create the export. So it's rather quick. This is a short file, and you can see the status of the transformation here. If you are familiar with the raw format of this type of file, you can scroll through this view and you can see what is actually put into that file. If you're not familiar with this format, it's okay. We have enough feedback here to know that the conversion worked. It shows that 4 objects were converted for the file, and we had already looked at the plan in advance and seen the 4 objects. So now, in order to get this file to the Nexus DSC, we can't just transmit it as we did with Argo Navis and Sky Commander. We need to actually transport it via a micro SD card. Now the micro SD card comes with the Nexus DSC, and the micro SD card is tiny. Take a look at that. The connections are on the back, and this tiny little guy fits into the Nexus. Now, we need to be able to write to this small micro SD card. And so my computer that I'm doing this webinar from does not have a multimedia card slot, but my laptop does. Thankfully, the Nexus DSC is supplied with a carrier that adapts this tiny SD card to the slot that I have in my laptop. So this is the carrier. It's an adapter, and it's a lot larger. So all you have to do is take the micro SD card and insert it into the carrier and press it all the way in until it stops, and you can see it's flush with the carrier. Then I can insert this carrier into the multimedia slot on my laptop, and it appears as just another drive on the system. So I can use the File Explorer to take this file, the Skyless file that we exported, and just copy it to the root folder on this SD card. That's all it takes. Now once we have that, we need to insert it into the Nexus DSC. Now, at the moment, the Nexus DSC is on, and I need to make sure that it's off. If I'm not mistaken, the Nexus DSC loads catalogs from the micro SD card when it's turned on. I also suspect there are some electronic reasons why you wouldn't want to put the micro SD card into the slot if the Nexus DSC is turned on. That's a question in my mind. I'm sure that Astro Devices could answer that, but for sure, I would turn off the device. So you insert the micro SD card in the back here in the micro SD card slot, click it all the way in, you'll hear the click, and then we can power up the Nexus DSC, and we should be able to watch it load, catalogs, initialize. And now it's really simple. We need to scroll over to the Find icon on the top level of the menu and press OK, and then scroll over with the arrow button from Observing List. Press OK, and it turns out that the very first observing list that I have on my micro SD card is this new file that I've exported from Deep Sky Planner. And hopefully you can read that. It is the Webb Deep Sky Society Galaxy of the Month plan. So now I can take the Nexus DSC out into the field with me, and I won't need a computer, and I can use the usual locating feature on the Nexus DSC to push the telescope to the coordinates of each object in that list. So it's really a nice feature. The only thing I would warn is that you would probably want to do this file transfer in daylight, because if you were to drop this tiny micro SD card in the field, in the darkness, I don't think you're going to find it. It's also kind of difficult to fit into the slot because it's so small. And you need to be able to hear that click to make sure it's seated. So, that explains the file export facility for Nexus DSC. And there's one other concern I have with observing with the DSCs, and that is that with Nexus, when you export a file and load it, the objects themselves need to be known to the Nexus DSC in its database. So these are all NGC galaxies, and they're in the Nexus DSC. So the matches are made, and you're able to find each of these objects. But a problem can arise. What if you want to observe something a little unusual? Something that isn't in the Nexus DSC database? Well, the tools are present here with Deep Sky Planner to accommodate that need, but you wouldn't want to use the file export to do that. What you would want to do is take your computer to the field with you and use the Push To feature. So let's see how that's going to work. I'll close this observing plan and I'll open another. And this is the WBL Galaxy Cluster Catalog. It's a little off the beaten path. It should be published to the Deep Sky Planner Plan Library next week. You should find it there then. If you are not very familiar with the WBL catalog, it's a list of galaxy clusters that are poor clusters. Not a lot of members, dim members, etc. If you own a large telescope, you'd probably like to have a go at some of these objects. So, if I were to put these into the file export facility and transfer this plan to the Nexus DSC via the SD card, we would load the plan when we turn on the Nexus DSC, and none of the objects would be found. So you would have no matches and you would have no way to locate these objects. But if you take Deep Sky Planner to the field with you and you open it like this, and you have run the plan to get refreshed altitude, azimuth, etc. I'll do that kind of quickly. Let's try this. Let's make sure that the computed coordinates, the altitude and azimuth, are accurate for the time being. We'll see that these objects are not up, and that's kind of an interesting thing. Suppose you're out, you want to have a look at WBL1. You can right-click on that object and click Push To. That will transmit the coordinates, the apparent right ascension and declination, to the Nexus DSC, and then you'll be able to use the Nexus to locate the object as you normally would. So, in order to do that, we have set up all the communication settings for Nexus, and right-click, and I'm clicking Push To. And it should have beeped, but it didn't. It took the coordinates. Yeah, I thought it would beep because that object is below. Yeah, we didn't connect to Nexus. And I understand that problem. I can do it if you like. When I switched off the Nexus DSC, it dropped the network connection, so I just have to give this computer a moment to reconnect. And I will try it again, and that's a Push To. And there's the beep sound from Nexus DSC, indicating that I've asked it to locate an object that is beneath the horizon. And according to Deep Sky Planner, it is beneath the horizon. So, that's all I had prepared for today. And if you are watching the live chat, or excuse me, via your YouTube channel, then you would be able to submit your questions on live chat. And so I'm going to watch for that for a moment or two. And if nothing comes in, we'll just call it a day. I have found this Nexus DSC to be a wonderful device. I have used the Sky Commander for more than 25 years, so I have a lot of experience with that. But I find that taking the Sky-Fi unit out and talking through it to my Sky Commander is a little cumbersome. It can certainly be done, and it certainly works. So if that's what you have, go with it. If you're in the market for a different solution and you want to use wireless, whether you're using just a Wi-Fi connection or a Sky-Fi unit, it will work just beautifully. But really, I think getting the optional Wi-Fi card for the Nexus DSC is quite a nice solution. Okay, so I don't see any questions coming in from live chat. So I hope you've enjoyed the webinar, and I hope that you'll enjoy using Deep Sky Planner with Nexus DSC. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.